Hi, this is Fatme Beydoun.
And this is Erica Bass. Our lecture is about social realism. Social realism is a style of art that analyzes and studies the political and economic hard times. Defining characteristics of social realism include political or economic issues, relation to war or controversy, troubles with the government, or issues in a specific state. Some artists like to show effects of the Great Depression, problems with the president, or tragedies that have happened in a state such as dust bowls, tornadoes, and increasing poverty rates. Social realism's only landscapes are at least partly cityscapes. Social realism is not an art of the studio. Rarely does one see a painting of the model costumed or nude. Realism showed the aspects that were the least pretty. They painted the people in the slums, the industrial suburbs, the factory towns, and sometimes on the farm. Its main subject is certain or significant moment in the lives of ordinary people. Some of the major artists of this movement include Thomas Hart Benton, Grant Wood, Dorothea Lange, Ben Shahn, John Stewart Curry, and Arthur Rothstein. The artists that also played a part in the Ashcan School are important to this movement. Art wasn't just about making things physically attractive, but it was more about showing the realities of people's hardships during the Great Depression, World War II, Cold War, and the Civil Rights Movement. People liked social realism because they could relate to it. Social realism displays pieces that were current during that time. It showed what was going on during the time period. People reacted very differently to social realism. Some did not like it because they thought that this art movement made the United States look bad. Some thought that it was only displaying the negative qualities and ignored the positive side. Others liked social realism because they thought that it kept people informed about what was going on. They also thought that it would be useful in teaching future students about U.S. history and major past events. This movement started a lot of controversy with the many different opinions. Currently, it has been proven that social realism has been successful in teaching students. There are no specific methods, but the subject tends to focus on the poor or working class. The materials differ among the artists. Social realism was popular during the Great Depression, World War II, Cold War, and the Civil Rights Movement. Social realism used art to protest against the injustices of the working class. The FSA project started in 1935 and ended in 1943. The FSA was a New Deal agency. The agency hired photographers to provide visual evidence. There were more than 80,000 black and white images. It is now considered one of the most famous documentary projects. The New Masses was an American Marxist magazine closely related with the Communist Party USA with the coming of the Great Depression. It was published from 1926 until 1948. Ashcan School was an artistic movement in the United States best known for works portraying scenes of daily life in New York, often the city's poorer neighborhoods. Robert Henry was an American painter and teacher. He was a leading figure of the Ashcan School. Jerome Myers was an American artist and writer associated with the Ashcan School. He was well known for his sympathetic depictions of the urban landscape. John French Sloan was one of the founders of the Ashcan School. He was also a member of the Eight. He is best known for his urban genre scenes in New York neighborhood life. John French Sloan was called the premier artist of the Ashcan School. He painted the inexhaustible energy and life of New York City during the first decades of the 20th century. He was also considered an early 20th century realist painter who embraced the principles of socialism and placed his artistic talents at the service of those beliefs. Walker Evans was an American photographer best known for his work for the Farm Security Administration. He liked to document the effects of the Great Depression. Dorothea Lange was an American documentary photographer and photojournalist, known for her Depression-era work for the Farm Security Agency. She was born on May 26, 1895, and died on October 11, 1965. Her most famous piece is Migrant Mother. The woman in the picture is a 32-year-old mother named Florence Owens Thompson. She had 7 children. They were pea pickers in California during the Great Depression. The pea crops were destroyed due to heavy rain, so they had no money because there was no work to do. Migrant Mother was described as a timeless work of art. Some also say that Lange was piecing together the big story behind the many personal and local stories of poverty and despair. Dorothea Lange photographed Children of Wheel. Children at the Wheel Public School were pledging allegiance to the American flag. This photo was taken before the internment of Japanese Americans. Arthur Rothstein was the first photographer sent out by Roy Stryker. Roy Stryker is a major government official. Roy Stryker helped Rothstein shoot some of the most significant pictures ever taken. Fleeing a dust storm was photographed by Arthur Rothstein in 1936. It took place in Cimarron County, Oklahoma. The image shows farmer Arthur Coble and his 2 sons. Rothstein took this photo to show people in the East what was happening to fellow Americans in their farms, because those in the East had no contact or sense of identity with the poor farmer walking across the dusty soil on his farm in Oklahoma. It gave him a sense of identity. Family in a Wagon was taken in 1935. Wagons were the most common type of transportation back then. This was one of Rothstein's most famous photographs. Grant Wood was an American painter best known for his paintings depicting the rural American Midwest. This is Grant Wood's most known piece, American Gothic. Grant Wood painted his family dentist, Dr. McKeeby. He couldn't figure out who the woman could be because they did not want a pretty woman. His sister volunteered, but her face was too round, so he stretched it out to make it more narrow. People that lived in Iowa became offended by the painting. They felt that the man and woman in American Gothic looked sad, and that represented Iowa in a negative way. Grant Wood painted Daughters of Revolution. The painting depicts the founding fathers as cross-dressers. Appraisal by Grant Wood depicts the system of class.
Thomas Hart Benton was an American muralist and painter. Benton says, "I believe I have wanted, more than anything else, to make pictures, the imagery of which would carry unmistakably American meanings for Americans and for as many of them as possible. Americans like Benton because he also was a common American, and people could understand him. Benton felt that art should not be abstract, it should be realistic." The People of Chilmark shows people on an island doing various activities like rowing boats, holding beach balls, and throwing a boat into the water. Benton really wanted to capture the common experience on the beach of Chilmark. He also wanted to show the connection between man and nature and how they can become one. Their body movement is meant to show the movement of the world and how it is constantly changing around us. This piece was one of his largest paintings. It was 5.5 feet by 6.5 feet. Although each person is doing a different activity, they all seem to be united, so Benton brings in the art principle of unity. Some people see this painting as chaotic, but it was really meant to be peaceful. Thomas Hart Benton created war-related pieces such as Cut the Line, which depicts the launch of a U.S. Navy tank landing ship in 1944. This was not the only painting he made about the launching. He made several other ones showing the location of the boat and its surroundings. It was almost like a documentation. The American historical epic is more towards the left side of the political spectrum scale. He believed in the American dream, but also felt that Wall Street was preventing people from achieving that American dream. Ben Shahn. Ben Shahn was born September 12, 1898, and he died March 14, 1969. He was the most commonly known social realist because of his propaganda works, and he was even hired by the government. He created several paintings that promoted the people of America to go and register to vote. Ben Shahn is considered one of the most famous and influential artists during the Great Depression and World War II. Ben Shahn worked with Diego Rivera when he was working on the Rockefeller Central mural. He was Rivera's assistant during this project. This piece, called Boy, was shown in the Warsaw ghettos during World War II. This painting is actually held in the University of Michigan Ann Arbor Museum of Art. Ben Shahn felt that he could relate to this boy because he was also Jewish and he struggled with his religion while growing up. Ben Shahn liked to combine historical events and his personal child memories and compare them to the real world. Pacific Landscape shows a person lying on a beach. It represents the deaths in World War II and human loneliness. Register to Vote was the poster for the Congress of Industrial Organization.
McSorley's bar is displayed in the Detroit Institute of Art. It was painted in 1912. This piece is an oil on canvas. It was used to show the typical bar life. Ben Shahn did a series called Lucky Dragon about Lucky Dragon number 5. Lucky Dragon number 5 was the Japanese fishing boat caught in the Bikini Atoll hydrogen bomb blast. Philip Evergood was an American painter, etcher, lithographer, sculptor, illustrator, and writer. He was more active during the Great Depression and World War II era. Evergood's 1937 painting, American Tragedy, shows blood on the ground, gun smoke, picketing strikers, and some people wearing white shirts and ties. It is supposed to remind us of the Memorial Day massacre. John Stuart Curry was hailed as one of the 3 greatest painters of American regionalism, along with Grant Wood and Thomas Hart Benton. Tragic Prelude was a mural created by John Stuart Curry. This mural is in the Kansas State House, illustrating John Brown and the clash of forces in Bleeding, Kansas. John Stuart Curry's most famous piece is Tornado Over Kansas. Tornado Over Kansas depicts a farmer facing an approaching tornado while his wife helps the family and pets into a tornado shelter. Curry painted Baptism in Kansas. It reflected the fanatic religious sects that held open-air baptisms.
Jacob Lawrence is an African American painter best known for his portrayal of African American life. Migration Series was a 60-panel painted on cardboard. The series depicted the Great Migration, which was African Americans moving from the rural South to urban North. Romare Bearden was an African American artist and writer. He worked in several different media, including cartoons, oils, and collages. He began his artistic career by creating scenes of the American South. Aaron Douglas was an African American painter and a major figure in the Harlem Renaissance. Power Plant was painted to show a typical job during the Harlem Renaissance. Slavery through Reconstruction was meant to show Douglas's thoughts on slavery.
Diego Rivera was a muralist. His American murals showed the industrial life. He showed this by using symbolism in his murals. He compared the machines to the workers. Detroit Industry was a 27-panel mural depicting industry at the Ford Motor Company. Harry Sternberg was an American painter, printmaker, and educator. He was born in New York City on July 19, 1904, and died in Escondido, California on November 27, 2001.
Walter Kahn played the most significant role in the Armory Show. The Armory Show refers to 1913 International Exhibition of Modern Art. It was the first large exhibition of modern art in America.
Isaac Sawyer painted portraits of friends, relatives, and people of the working class life. He was also a WPA artist. His older twin brothers, Moses and Raphael Sawyer, were also social realism artists. Isaac Sawyer painted Employment Agency. It reveals the social realities of the years of the Great Depression. William Gropper was a cartoonist, painter, lithographer, and muralist. He is a committed radical. He did political work in publications like The Revolutionary Age, The Liberator, and The New Masses.
Jacob Burke was a cartoonist. He worked for the Chicago Sun-Times. Majority of his cartoons consisted of events during the Great Depression.
Joe Jones was a 20th century painter, landscape painter, lithographer, and muralist.
Russell Lee was an American photographer and photojournalist, best known for his work with the FSA for his excellent images documenting the ethnography of various American classes and cultures. Margaret Burke was an American photographer and documenter. She is known as the first foreign photographer permitted to take pictures of the Soviet industry, the first female war correspondent, and the first female photographer for Life magazine.
John Augustus Walker was a well-known artist of the Great Depression era. He was commissioned to do several art projects for the Works Progress Administration. John Augustus Walker painted the City Hall murals in 1936. It is now displayed in the Museum of Mobile. This piece shows historical Alabama agriculture. George Lux was an American social realist painter and illustrator. He painted genre paintings of urban subjects. He also took part in the Ashcan School. Reginald Marsh was an American painter born in Paris. He was best known for his depictions of life in New York City in the 1920s and 1930s. He liked to show crowded Coney Island, beach scenes, burlesque, women, and jobless men on the Bowery. Marsh painted Striptease at New Gotham. It shows the positive side of social realism. It has a burlesque queen with the Venus Pudica pose. In 1934, he also painted 14th Street. It shows a large crowd in front of a theater hall. Hugo Gelwart was an illustrator and muralist. He was also a committed radical. He was considered by some art critics to have the best political work during the 20th century.
Paul Meltzner was an American painter who was widely recognized for his WPA-era paintings and lithographs, who was later known for his iconic portraits of celebrities in the performing arts. Isabel Bishop was an American painter and graphic artist who produced numerous paintings and prints of working women in realistic urban settings.
Jack Levine was an American social realist painter and printmaker, best known for his satires on modern life, political corruption, and biblical narratives.
Horace Pippin was a self-taught American painter. He displayed the injustices of slavery and American segregation. George Bellows was an American painter known for his bold depictions of urban life in New York City.
Social realism art is used as an essential tool to help teach students about what went on during the Great Depression and World War II. The social realist movement ended because abstract expressionism was becoming more popular.